We are live. Okay, waiting for the Blog Talk Radio lady to give us the countdown.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, well, Kufar, Akbar, everybody, welcome to another edition of Crossing the Crescent Discussion Group. We are live here every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and every Tuesday evening at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Also, the purpose of the show is to rightly divide the differences between Christianity and Islam. Okay, so welcome. It is a beautiful day in Kafiristan. The sun is out, and dare I say what the temperature is, so it doesn't anger Paul, who's living.
Oh, it's 73 here in New York.
Okay, so that's exactly what it is here. So there you go. So you're living in that frozen tundra. I spent the afternoon yesterday out in the front yard. My flagpole in a big storm this past spring got blown over, and it's one of those metal flagpoles, and so I finally got it replaced yesterday. Do you know what it's like to dig one of those big old concrete blocks out of the ground?
Yes.
Okay.
Forever.
Either the block got bigger or I got weaker, one of the two, because it took me all afternoon to get. That's why I'm kind of sunburned today. I spent all afternoon out there digging that Hamajama out. What a pain in the boat that was.
You should use like a mini digger. That would have been the easiest option, just like a mini digger.
I don't know if we have that. I don't know if we have anything with that terminology here in the States.
With a mini digger? I think it'd be like a little. They have like mini backhoes you can go to, like.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. We might use for terminology.
You wrap a chain around that, lift it right up, bloop, 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 drop it in the back of your pickup, kick it. That's. No. The mini digger is me. That's who it was. I did the mini digger. So, and I'm definitely not going to be running myself out anytime soon. Okay. And that was like last summer. I hauled in. It was over 20 loads of rock. My wife had this bright idea. Let's put this curb-like thing around the front of the house and on both sides. Extend it out a little bit to the fence on the side, and then bring in all this big river rock. Who's going to put the river rock down? That's the problem. Ooh. I mean, it sounds nice. Let's bring this contract this guy and put this nice little curb-like structure. It looks nice. I mean, don't get me wrong, it really looks nice. But my back was not right for like 4 months after that. It was just, oh my gosh, it was painful. But it looks like, I guess if you're going to have a nice yard.
You should never do what?
Say that again?
What do they tell you in the military? You should never do what?
I don't know what.
Is that V word, volunteer?
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah. Well, this was kind of like a voluntold is what it was. It wasn't necessarily I was going to be volunteered for anything. I was just, hey, you're going to do this and you're not going to complain about it. When she come home, I'm laying on the couch and I'm taking like 10 ibuprofen because my back's anyway. It looks nice, and anytime you do yard work, it does look nice, and it's well worth it. It's just that when you're out there doing it, it is. I tell you, it was a good way to spend a Saturday. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the Nation of Islam again, and I just checked, and our friend from, I think he said he was from Chirac, he was from Rad's neck of the woods, hasn't called in, which I don't know. After spending 2 weeks struggling with that connection with him, I was just kind of at, what do you do? But finally we had him call into BTR. I moved the mic over here towards the speaker, and I listened back at the replay on YouTube, and it sounded fine. I don't know, people have
It was very
difficult.
clear.
Yeah, so it worked, but it was just when he was trying to stream in, I don't know if he's borrowing his neighbor's Wi-Fi, or it's maybe he lives underneath a cell tower that he doesn't get reception. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is that his connection stunk, and I apologize for that. And I know a lot of people were probably just as frustrated trying to watch or trying to pay attention to what he was trying to say at the same time as everybody else.
Well, the second time around was much better and much more clear, so that worked out.
Yeah, that first day was just, it was just, I don't know. You want to hear. I wanted to hear what the guy had to say. To be honest, I honestly did. I was honestly interested in how you're going to justify these types of feelings and
racist feelings.
Right, racist feelings. How do you justify? And it's 2022, and I don't. You could see he was. I think I could tell, and I don't know if you guys could sense it either, but he was kind of uncomfortable saying a lot of the things that he was doing, trying to justify what their beliefs are. And if you are the nation, and this is what we figured out yesterday, was that when they wrote these things down, what do the Muslims want? Well, we want to be completely segregated from white society. Well, 70 years ago, that may have been a sentiment. This is prior to the Civil Rights Act and prior to the desegregation of our country. That may have been a popular idea from people on that side of the fence, and I completely understand that based on centuries of discrimination, enslavement, and the Jim Crow. Of course, you're gonna say, okay, well, maybe you do have a point, but not in 2022.
Well, they had started several of their own towns and cities. I'm talking about Black Americans had done that after the Civil War. There are in almost every state in the Union. There were a couple cities started specifically and only by Black families getting together and creating towns and cities. You can actually look at cities started by Black Americans, and you can find that on Wikipedia, and they list a lot of them from each state. So it's kind of impressive. You can't say they've never had it. It's happened. It's been done. Do they choose to stay segregated? Nope.
And there was a standard that we used to teach about, because there was this mass migration of African Americans in the 1920s from the South to the North. But prior to that, to escape the segregation, the segregation immediately after the Civil War, during what we called the Gilded Age, they went west, and they were called echo dusters. And they were very successful farmers out west, all the way up until the 30s and 40s, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not exactly sure when all of that ended, or when they eventually just gave up on farming. I don't know if maybe there was discrimination involved in the farming issues or not. I'm not sure, but I do know almost immediately after the Civil War, instead of going north to where there's more white people that would discriminate against them, they went west. When we look at the Mormons, why did the Mormons go west? Well, there's nobody out there. And if you go to, we're going to go to Salt Lake City. All right, you go ahead and stay out there and do whatever you want. We don't care. This is out in the middle of nowhere. Well, everything's all connected today, but at the time, it wasn't a bad idea. Okay, so let's go ahead and just briefly go through what we had talked about last week, and then I want to go into a second part of what they believe. Now, we started off with what the Nation of Islam wants, but we did not really talk about what their beliefs were. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about their beliefs. Okay, so. And it comes right off of their website. I wasn't making any of this stuff up. It comes right off of their website. And we went through all of these things that they wanted: freedom, full, complete freedom, of course, equal justice under the law, okay, equity, equality of opportunity, equal membership in society. They wanted it's a separate state. Now, this is where they wanted to be segregated from their own people. They wanted to get away from well, we believe that our former slave masters are obligated to provide such land. Now, that one, of course, you're going to have a problem with. Okay, who are these former slave masters? Well, if you look at a calendar, once again, it's 2022. Even at the time that these things were written, where the former slave masters? Well, they're all dead. But this is a generational issue, according to them. And they want to have their own land given to them, and they want to be supported for the next 20 to 25 years once they're given that land, which again, why? And then here it says, since we cannot get along with them in peace and equality, again, 2022, 70 years ago, probably right, but not today, not in 2022. Number 5, believers, all believers in Islam that are in federal prison is going to give them a what do they call that? A pardon. We're going to pardon them out of there, which never works out. We can see that with the COVID release plan from last year when everybody got said, COVID, we got to empty our prisons. Yeah, that worked out really well. Let's see. They wanted an end to police brutality and mob attacks. Okay, I agree with that. And police brutality 60, 70 years ago was probably horrendous, but now you have the integration of complete police departments. So if there is that, you would have I would hope that you would have a certain segment of police departments being very vocal about it. And again, you use isolated instances like the George Floyd, and we did talk extensively about. We did talk about Rodney King, didn't we?
Yes,
we did talk about Rodney King. And he was like, well, they were all found not guilty. Okay, well, there's a lot of things that go along with that, but okay, maybe you do have a point. But at the same time, that's an isolated incident. It's not the norm. And this is what I'm trying to get through. It's not the norm that people are treated this way. 7. We got to sneeze, so on.
Well, the sad thing with that, I mean, again, this is 2022. It's not the immediate aftermath of Rodney King, and to not know what actually happened in that event, to not know the full story and you want to speak on it as an authority, that's kind of inexcusable. You should actually do some research, and he proved he hadn't done any and considered himself knowledgeable of it, which was pretty sad.
Well, what was he high? He was high on some. It was like a horse
meth. I believe he was up. No, actually, I think it was heroin. I had to go back. I'm pretty sure it was an opiate. That's
right.
That's at the very least.
Well, he was high on something.
It was acid or something because he was resisting police. What's the right? There was some police training that was done. So some of the violence that was put upon him was. Some were trained methods. I'm not going to say all of them were, but he kept being told to stay down, and he refused. And as much as we talk about the Rodney King event, when the police ask you to stay down, and they have to ask you repeatedly, and you keep getting back up, you're saying you want to continue to fight. So that's the piece that never got really discussed. That's where I contacted. I didn't serve in police or military, so I wanted to talk to people I knew who were trained and ask them what they thought. And pretty much the same thing with the George Floyd thing. When things go too far, you're supposed to remind your colleague things are going too far, because that happens. When you get in that adrenaline mode, you have to.
Well, that's the
be
thing.
reminded.
That's what I was going to bring up. They had just come out of a high speed chase, and when you're in a high speed chase, your adrenaline's pumping to begin with, and then he crashes, and this guy comes out of the car, and he's like 6'20", 800 pounds, and you're like, oh my god, we gotta arrest this guy now, and he's resisting arrest, and you tase him, and the tase has no effect. I mean, and the same thing with George Floyd. George Floyd was a Division I college football player. To give you any idea how big this guy was, he wasn't just some small guy like me. He wasn't like, he wasn't just. This guy was huge, and it took. They couldn't get him out of his car. He refused to get out of his car, and so you have this tussle. And when you're tussling, your adrenaline's going, and then you finally do. It took three of them. Was it three of them? I think that were there to finally get the cuffs on him and to finally get him on the ground. And now people expect that, okay, all of that adrenaline that's going through your veins, all of that anger of this guy wrestling around with you. I don't know if he hurt him or hit him or whatever happened. Police officers are supposed to shut it off immediately. You're done. And in a lot of cases, it takes, well, I'm going to just tell you, it takes discipline to do that. It absolutely does. You just have to, okay, we have to de-escalate right now. And it takes discipline to do that. That's something that you cannot train somebody to do.
You have to have that partnership. You have to have that camaraderie. This is one of the reasons why you hear this concept of a blue line, is because you have to rely on your partners, your trusted companions, to just simply remind you to step back.
Right. Yeah. To bring it down. And they didn't do that to whoever that officer was.
And this I'll say is that man was a training officer, and he didn't set an example that day.
Right. Okay. So the bottom line is that they went, we were talking about brutality, were we not? We were trying to make courts immediate end to police brutality. And he uses two examples that, and you know what I find also amazing? Hold on, let me just bring this up. When we start talking about all of these instances of police brutality and instances of Islamophobia, if it's so prevalent in our country, why don't we have more examples of this? I mean, if it's supposed to happen daily, and you have dash cams, body cams, all of these cameras everywhere, and this is the only thing that you can come up with, or take that poor kid that was in that he was stopped. It was where the lady, instead of using the taser, she shot him. You know which incident I'm talking about? They pulled him over. It was a minor traffic stop, something foolish. License plate expired, but the kid had warrants, and they went to arrest him
about a month ago at the most, right?
No, it happened a while ago. But they just
Dante Wright, say his name, Dante Wright.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Brad would know. Okay, so the guy's Dante Wright. So they ask him to get out of the car. And as they're doing that, he gets ready to gun it. And the police officer, who was a training officer, yells, taser, taser, taser. And then boom, 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 shoots him. I don't know how many times she shot him and ended up killing him. Well, she meant to pull her taser, instead pulled her gun and shot him. Well, they convicted her. I think it was involuntary manslaughter or whatever it was. I don't know. But and they sent her to jail. So when you start talking about all of these instances of, police brutality and Islamophobia, and yet at the same time, we see all of these manufactured instances of it. Jesse Smollett much. Hello.
Eric, in light of that, we're talking about the pulling the trigger. You were military police. When you were put in front of a target, how many times were you told to pull the trigger before you were told to stop? Was it three times?
No,
okay.
We weren't. We were told to use whatever forces necessary to eliminate the threat. That's all we were told.
That's military is a little different. In general, from what I've been told, the law enforcement, you're to fire a minimum of 3 times. And each time you pull your gun, they expect you to fire 3 times. And that's the minimum of what they expect. So that's what I've heard. I mean, when I've talked to police officers and part of their training, that's when they pull their gun, they expect to see 3 shots fired, because they don't expect, what if the first one doesn't hit? You want the second or the third to hit. And this is one of the things people forget. And so when they talk about people being hit multiple times, it's part of their training. And it's muscle memory.
Well, I'll tell you, the reason why they probably didn't tell us to pull 3 times is when I was going through training, we were carrying 45s.
Mm-hmm.
You get hit with a 45 3 times, you're dead. It doesn't matter. You ain't getting up. You ain't walking away from that stuff.
Oh, these are 9mm these cops are carrying, so I don't know if there's much difference, but
it's much smaller caliber. Yeah. What? Go ahead.
Well, the 45 is definitely the man stopper, but here's the interesting thing on the Dante Wright shooting. If she would have not yelled taser, 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 and just shot him with her pistol, it would have been totally completely justifiable, because there was no negligence. Because him pulling off with the police officer in the car, halfway out, halfway in, especially with a when he has a
fleeing felon.
He's a fleeing felon. But he had a what do you call it? It's not a restraining order. It's worse, no contact with a female or something like that. Okay, and he had a female in the car that they had not identified, so they didn't know if she was his victim or what. But that would have been completely justifiable if, she wouldn't yell taser, 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 and just shot him outright with the pistol.
Wow.
Because and you can go and look at disorderly or police activity where they have all these police shootings and they break it down. That's always how it ends. When the suspect drives off with the police officer in the car, they open fire and they shoot the suspect. Even with the police officer in the car with them, the police officer will shoot that suspect. Okay, they don't play around. Now you can say that's wrong, that's right, that's whatever, but that's the way it is. The problem
is definitely not racist. They didn't care. They were protecting. The idea was to protect the woman in the car.
Right. But the problem. Well, the thing is that. Well, I forgot my train of thought. You interrupted me, Paul.
Well, if you look, almost immediately after the George Floyd incident, you had that officer. I don't know where he was, but a black girl, was getting ready to stab another black girl. They were in a fight, and so in order to prevent her from stabbing and killing that other girl, he shoots her. And I can't remember how many times he shot her, but he ends up killing her. And then you get LeBron James tweeting something about, I hate cops, I'm so sick of, and I'm thinking, why would you do that if you don't know? I mean, he saved the life of another girl.
Yeah.
Right.
But since it's a white officer and a black woman, then he's going, this is where they racialize. And I understand there are some elements of police brutality, racism within, but you have racism within all institutions, but it's not systemic like they want you to believe it is. You got racist teachers, you got racist cops, you got racist basketball players. It's not at the level that they want it to be and need it to be in order to make these arguments. And this is what this organization does.
I think it's worse is that they ignore that you can be racist if you're black, you can be racist if you're white, you can be racist if you're Asian, you can be racist if you're Native American. Racism can be in many different forms, and they think it's exclusively white against black.
Well, because they redefined racism. See, the racism used to be, if all you judged a person by in the situation was by the color of their skin or their ethnicity, you were a racist. Now they have this thing called intersectionality and the victimhood or the power struggle hierarchy, and this is seriously, I've listened to these lectures on this. The thing that throws them off is Asians. Okay.
Yes.
No, it does. Dude, I feel sorry for Asians because on the one hand, okay, on the racial hierarchy of struggles, okay, they're up there. But on the other hand, because they succeed so well in the United States of America, because they don't buy into that crap, okay, and they have a high rate of success, well, all of a sudden they're white people. Seriously. And you want to throw a dude off, a lefty locust, okay, who's in this intersectionality thing or intersectionality thing, ask them what
Intersex.
color in Asian. Well, ask them when I say intersex. Anyway, ask them what color an Asian is, and that will just totally explode their mind. Because on the one hand, they want to say yellow, but that would mean that they're racist, and they can't say they're white. Well, unless they're successful, then they're white. But they want to include them in their oppressed society hierarchy somewhere, but they can't figure out where they fit in it because it's a hierarchy. Because, okay, first of all, blacks are at the highest level of oppression, okay? And then you got Mexican Americans or Latin Americans, and they battle each other out. Okay, Jews are not included in this. Why? I forgot why, but there's a reason for it.
They consider them white.
Yeah, they consider them white. But yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how they structure things based on the color of a person's skin. And I'm just like, my mind was like, are you freaking kidding me, dude? Anyway, that's all I wanted to say on that.
All right, let's jump back to the PowerPoint here. Okay, so let's see. So they wanted justice under the equal justice under the law. Okay, I get that. We demand equal justice under the law. Okay, equal employment opportunities, which means that you have to be immediately employed. So if you're going to be segregated, how are you going to get these jobs immediately?
That was just the point I was finally thinking of. I mean, if they want segregation, they can't have everything else they're asking for.
Sure. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Okay, we want the government of the United States to exempt all. They don't want to pay their taxes. Now, come on, really? Okay, how about not having the jizya then? How's that going to work out for some of the Islamic countries? All right, we want education, but separate schools. Now, that didn't work back in the 1940s and earlier, or the 50s. And why you think it was, if it didn't work back then, why would it work now? And then it says all necessary textbooks and equipment, schools. Okay, that's already provided almost free of charge. And then also college buildings. Okay, we have all kinds of historically black colleges today that get all kinds of funding. All right, so let's look and see what they believe. I mean, I think this is important to understand. Maybe if we understand what they believe, we can better understand what they want. So this is, again, part of their website. So what the Muslims believe. Of course, alhamdulillah, they believe that in one God, and his name is the God, Allah.
I've just been reading one of their books, and they actually state that Elijah Muhammad actually is God. So it says, so this is from Everything Was Going Well, Then We Accepted Jesus, How Christianity Deceived the Black Nation. It states in the book, we do not need to look for the coming of God. We do not need to be on our knees praying and thinking that God will come out of the sky like some sprig or some thing. Today we have God in person with us, to whom our praise in the person of Muhammad Fard Muhammad. He came in the person of man. He is not coming in the way we have been thinking in the past, that God come to us as a spirit. No, my beloved readers.
Right, and this is why I was pressing him.
Spook.
This is why I was pressing him last week. Tell me who this Wally Fard is. Because his name's not Wally Fard. It's Muhammad something. I can't remember what they call it. What's his name?
What did you just say, Dominic?
They call him Master Fard Muhammad.
Fard Muhammad. Okay,
Master
there you go.
Fard Muhammad.
Yeah.
That's the,
it was something like that. So
That's
they believe that he was.
Get the quote.
He believed that he was the Mufti. He was the Messiah. That he was God incarnate is what they say.
So doesn't that by itself, doesn't that make them as a separate entity than Islam as a whole?
Oh yeah, I mean they're about as heretical as heretics can get, because they claim that Elisha Muhammad, who is Fard's student, is a prophet of God, and at least the traditional Sunni and Shia Islam today specifically says that no, Muhammad was the last of all prophets, the seal of all prophets. So how can Elijah Muhammad be a prophet then?
Isn't that the reason why they got rid of the Ahmadiyya and they laughed them out and killed them when they can?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's the same reason they had Ahmadiyya is all about having a prophet.
Well, all I know is that they are considered a heretical group by your mainland, mainline. Main line. There we go.
Main line, yeah.
Main line.
But today, the Muslim Brotherhood accepts NOI under the umbrella of Muslim Brotherhood organizations. That's kind of mind-numbing.
The Muslim Brotherhood accepts
in
the
America.
Nation of Islam as
they are now putting them into their and the Muslim Brotherhood organizations. They're accepting them. Us. I can't remember the right moniker, but they are accepting them as part of the Muslim Brotherhood.
I find that unreconcilable.
Well, yeah, that's. I mean, they're putting them together to get the crap one group to beat the crap out of the other, or they're trying to enforce their beliefs on the. I don't know, but that's one of the things I've been. And who's responsible for that? It's Nihad Awad.
How is he? How?
He's the head of the organization. USCOM or was it U.S. Muslim. I'll look it up real quick.
All right. Let me get to the second point while you look that one up. Okay, so second thing that they want, or what they believe. Second thing they believe, we believed in the Holy Quran and the scriptures of all the prophets of God. Man, I can live with that one. Scriptures of all the prophets of God. Yes, Isaiah. Yes, Ezekiel. Yes.
I'm sorry, it's U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations.
That's the one Nihad Awad's in charge of?
Yes, he's in charge of that also.
Now, is Nihad Awad that moron that
runs CARE?
CARE, okay, CARE, yeah, Council on American Islamic Relations. Yes, I don't care. Yeah, I was told that they were going to come looking for me at one point. I haven't heard. I haven't got the phone call for some reason.
Oh, we don't have the money that they like to play with.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what it doesn't matter. Okay, I ain't worried about it anymore anyway. Okay, so we believe in all the scriptures of the prophets. No, you don't. Why? Well, let's take a look here. Why? We believe in the truth of the Bible, but look at that word right there. But we believe in the truth of the Bible, but we believe it's been tampered with and must be reinterpreted to correlate with the Quran. Or I'm sorry, so that mankind will not be snared by the falsehoods that has been added to it. Now,
so how can you believe in that?
Well, that's the thing. I'm looking. Let's see here.
You almost might as well cross that out, saying we don't believe the Bible.
Well, that's exactly. But we believe in the Bible. We believe in the truth of the Bible. Look at that word.
But they wouldn't believe the Quran either, because essentially just the aspect of slavery in the Quran. So it's like. So you have massive problems because you can't say, okay, there's like certain verses in the Quran that are.
Well, I think
and the use of the word abd. Yes.
If we spent enough time with this guy, and this is kind of my worry sometimes, you spend enough time with people like this, you'll be as crazy as they are. Because when they start talking about how they reconcile the unreconcilable, then you have this tendency to believe them. For an example, we believe that Muhammad was the last prophet of Allah. We believe that Elijah Muhammad was a prophet. How do you reconcile something like this? And this is what I wanted him to try to explain to me. How is it that Elijah Muhammad could be a prophet of God, but yet at the same time, the Quran says that Muhammad from the 7th century is the last prophet of God? How do you reconcile that? And I don't see how you can, because it would be contradictory in nature. And it's the same thing as we believe in the truth of the Bible, but we believe this truth has been tampered with and must be reinterpreted.
This is what you called last week the law of non-contradiction.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's been added to it. Now, I promise you, if we were going to take this guy to task, if you take somebody like this to task, they could not tell you where it's been tampered with. They might be able to point out variants in the manuscripts, but not tampered with. we can go through the manuscripts today and see what has been added in, why it was added in. For an example, I'm going to do it right now, as a matter of fact. Let me go to the Gospel of John and go to chapter 4, I believe it is. John chapter 4. Is it chapter 4? It says in chapter 5. I'm sorry, folks, for the Bible lesson, but I'm going to do this. Where is chapter 4? Where does this begin? Here it is. No, it's not chapter 4. It's chapter 5. It says son Jesus went up to... Okay, it says in chapter 5, beginning in verse... let's just start in verse 2. Now they're in Jerusalem near the sheep-gated pool, which is Aramaic called Bethesda, which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here's a great number of disabled people and lie the blind and lame, the paralyzed. Okay, now it leaves out verse 4 in this version, and this is an NIV. It leaves out verse 4. And if you go to see what verse 4 says, it talks about why the pool used to, or why people were trying to get in the pool, because it was supposed to provide some type of magic healing properties once it was stirred up. That was what verse 4 said. But they've gone in and they've found the manuscript where it was in a column, in a margin off to the side, where it says, and it was stirred up. So a scribe getting this looks at it and says, okay, verse 2, verse 3, but okay, this part right here seems to belong to it, but it's been written out here in the margin. So they left it in, they entered it into the copy that they had, and then they go to verse 5. So the fact of the matter is that the Bible, we can be very confident that it contains what the original writers intended it to, but it also contains something like that. Was that purposeful in an insertion? No. Does it belong in the original text? Probably not. However, you don't have this, what does it say? It's been tampered with crap going on there. People trying to be true and ensuring that all of the text was included in the manuscript or in the copy that they're making, the scribe was making, just included was in the margin. Then they're going to go to something like the woman caught in adultery. They'll say, oh, well, this is clearly added in. And the earliest manuscripts don't have that in it. This is true. But there's a reason for it, and I'm not going to go into it today. But the fact of the matter is anytime that they start saying, okay, it was tampered with, fine. Okay, if you're going to say it was tampered with. The main tenets of Christianity, that Islam denies: death, deity, resurrection. Show me where that's been tampered with, where that's been inserted, and that is how that has corrupted the Bible. You show me. And they can't. And this is where people like this, they're just trained to parrot things without thinking deeply about it and providing any evidence. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I can't reconcile is the fact that Muslims believe in slavery. So you have like Sahih Muslim 103901. Jabir Allah be pleased with him, reported there came a slave and pledged allegiance to Allah's apostle. May be peace upon him. On migration, the Holy Prophet did not know he was a slave. There came a master and demanded him back, whereupon Allah's apostle, peace be upon him, said, sell him to me. And he bought him for 2 black slaves and did not after take allegiance from anyone until he asked whether he was a slave or free man. So what I can't reconcile is how now that, because when you start reading their literature, this is a quote from everything was going through the world except to Jesus, how Christianity deceived the black nation. This is quite in 1959. I talked to scholars in the Islamic world who sit and cry in tears in their eyes over the evil and suffering conditions of us in America under the white man. They all know, however, that as we know, it's only a matter of time that Almighty God Allah will show himself as he did in ancient times when a government or people exceeded themselves. He did in the days of Lot. It just goes on. But the thing is what they're contending for is that basically Islam kind of looked after the black man. But the thing is, they didn't know anything about Islam kind of then, because if they would have done any research or study, they'd have found that actually Islamic is very pro-slavery. And
I think a lot of this stems from a general hatred. It's kind of like the Black Hebrew Israelites.
Yeah.
What they do is they allow their hatred for what crimes were perpetrated against their ancestors, and then what they'll do is they will completely ignore, overlook, or whatever evidence there is that debunks their idea. For example, black slavery in Islam in this case, and they'll just completely ignore that so they can perpetuate this hatred that they have for what happened to their ancestors in the past. So the question always becomes then, when does that end? Does that ever stop? Does this hatred ever stop? And are you always going to play this victimology that you are repressed because your ancestors were repressed? I mean, I want to understand this. I want to know when this ends. Is there an end date, and how do we measure that?
I think you could almost measure some of this out, because Elijah Muhammad goes from proclaiming allowing others to believe he's a god, to proclaiming a type of faith structure that would make people believe that he's following Allah. And then he's got another god. It's the opposite that he considers the opposite to Christianity, which some people write up as this is the god of Satan. I mean, because the chief of all deceivers. I look at Elijah Muhammad as that was his purpose in picking the word Islam, to say, again, I'm not saying faith structure of Islam, because he was making his own faith structure, but I don't think he knew anything about Islam when he picked it.
Yeah. He's about as ignorant as Islam as kind of basically.
So he's just using this as a vehicle for self-promotion, is what he did.
Well, I think he used it as a vehicle to get people to stop calling him God, so he could proclaim and say, well, this is God. Yes, he's a prophet. He didn't have a problem with keeping the term prophet, but he didn't want which, again, if he was in Pakistan or Iraq or Iran or any one of these Sharia-run countries, he would have been killed.
Yeah, that's true.
Because what I just read from it is that they completely deny the resurrection of Christ. So it says in one of their books, no, there could be no such prophecy of God, whereas the people call the Son of God, being the first from there, because this means the mentally dead. The resurrection means the rise of those blind, deaf and dumb to the knowledge of the truth. Therefore, God could not be referred to as one coming in the resurrection or being resurrected among the dead. When he is the power of the resurrection, he is the one who causes the resurrection and gives the dead power to rise. So how can he be the first begotten from the dead? So they completely deny the actual resurrection, Jesus' resurrection from the dead, which is so that's another quote from their books. Because I'm trying to bring up the quotes from the thing. It's just
one of the things I found most interesting is one of my experiences with NOIs is just sitting down with them at a table. I pulled out my Bible. I use a King Jimmy, and just reading through John, just starting with John chapter 1, and one of them starts to freak out. And the other one's saying, all he's doing is reading. He's reading exactly what it says there. And the other one's freaking out like, that can't be true. That can't be true. But he's saying, the other guy's just saying, he read it word for word. Yeah.
Okay, let's jump back on this Hamajama, get to point number 4. What do they believe? They believe in Allah's prophets and the scriptures they brought to the people. Now, we just showed that they do not. They do not believe, because the scriptures that we have today, let's just make sure we understand this. The scriptures that Jesus had access during his life, we know what they were. Why? Because of the Dead Sea Scrolls. We know what they were, what Jesus had at that time, what the Old Testament had. We know what was in existence, what the gospel said at the time of Muhammad. Why? Because we have complete Bibles that date to the 7th century. So we know what was, we have complete Bibles that date to the 4th century, for crying out loud. So we know he had access to what Christians believed at the time. So to say that we believe in Allah's prophets and the scriptures they brought to the people is a bunch of crap. It's not true. They don't believe that, but they have to say that to provide lip service to it. We believe in the resurrection of the dead, not in the physical resurrection, but in mental resurrection. We believe that the so-called Negroes are most in need of mental resurrection. Therefore, they will be resurrected first. Furthermore, we believe we are the people of God's choice, as it has been written that God would choose the rejected and the despised. We can find no other persons fitting this description in the last days more than the so-called Negroes in America. We believe in the resurrection of the righteous. Now, this one, I don't know. What's your comments on this?
Go ahead.
What was that, Rad? Mute yourself.
All right. I would look at this as almost again another contradiction.
Oh, sorry.
They're talking about they say that they don't believe in resurrection, and it's almost like a racist statement against black people. They need only black people need some mental acuity, some mental awareness. It's quite a blatant statement against black men and women. I
would agree. This is the, what do they call this? The soft bigotry, that you find in this. With the black people are the most. What does it say? They are the most rejected and the most despised. That again is the self-loathing attitude that people have of themselves. And at one time, I would agree that at one time, maybe when this was written, that may have been true. But it's 2022. Do they still believe these things? Do they still want to be segregated? Do they still want to be separated? And I don't know. I don't see how you can get there. We can find no other persons fitting this description in the last days more than the so-called Negroes in America. Well, were the last days back in the 50s, in the 40s? Or are we in 2022 where this isn't true anymore? This is where you start adding the component of religion to people's racist attitudes. This is who was it that just said that? Nim Grace said
yes.
it best.
Yes.
I wonder if these are offshoot of the Black Hebrew Israelites. Well, maybe
she's right.
Black Hebrew Israelites are an offshoot of NOI. Who knows?
I believe she's right. I believe that they took some of. I think one of their original leaders took some of the belief structure and created that Black Hebrew Israelites.
Well, Connie has asked me to bring Dula back onto the show. She's texted me a couple times, asking me to bring Dula back on, and she has this other guy that she wants me to contact and have these two have a conversation. It sounds like a great idea. It's just getting to it is all I have to.
But the interesting thing is that it wouldn't work in any other country. I mean, it wouldn't work. So just say it wouldn't work in say somewhere like Brazil. Or I guess a slavery in Brazil, or just it doesn't. It would only work in like the Nation of Islam. It wouldn't work in Saudi Arabia.
Well, today, Dominic, NOI existed. Let's say in Birmingham, in the UK. What would happen to the leader of the NOI?
It would be checked. It wouldn't last long.
Are you saying that the Muslims in Birmingham might kill him?
Yeah, no, they wouldn't be very happy.
Typical English. They would not be very happy.
No, because it's just like
Love that.
if you, like real Islam would just cancel out the Nation of Islam, like anything else. It just doesn't. It doesn't hold any water. It just
Well, you know what you're saying is exactly. This is the funny thing, is exactly why Malcolm X left NOI. So what you've been saying, I mean, this is why I've been laughing at all the time I've heard you saying this the past few weeks. It's exactly it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the excuse me, go ahead, Brett.
Well, here's the funny thing. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Noi, you guys say NOI, I say Noi, because they're annoying. Noi are allowed to go on Hajj in Saudi Arabia.
They're not allowed?
They are allowed.
They are allowed.
They are allowed to go on Hajj. They are invited to get so many of the slots because, well, as you may or may not know, there are not enough. No one can complete Hajj now. The entire Muslim community would not be able to commit to complete Hajj because there's so many slots available. And of course, priority goes to the rich Arabs, but then Americans for some reason, because I always want Americans to come in. African Americans, Noi.
It's money.
Yeah. Well, go and look it up. So yeah, so they can take their bus fare tour, running between the two hills that are just kind of piles of rocks, and throw rocks at the devil. We'll throw rocks at the pillars of the rocks that is supposed to be done. I know it's weird, but yeah, Noi is allowed. Nation of Islam is allowed to send so many representatives of their faith to Saudi Arabia for Hajj.
Well, this is
Ahmadiyans are not. Ahmadiyans are not.
Well, this is what Malcolm X talks about. Why he left. One of the reasons why he left the Nation of Islam is because he did go on Hajj, and then when he went on Hajj, he saw, all of the different races that made up the people who practiced Islam. He saw black people, he saw white people, he saw Arab people, he saw Asian people, he saw people of all different creeds and colors there. And the one thing about the Hajj is the only thing you get to wear is like a bed sheet. And, you don't get to wear anything prominent that, makes you gives you some sort
and
of
who
status.
created the concept of not running around naked as they were during Muhammad's day?
What's that? Say that again.
Who created the concept of putting a sheet on? Because Muhammad was the one who ran around naked, and so did everybody else during his time. It was Muhammad who decided that they should wear a bed sheet.
Well, I'm glad they did, because that would just be a little icky to watch a billion people walking around a cube in the middle of the desert.
It would be considered posting porn.
Well, I mean, if you, I've heard stories that a lot of women get sexually assaulted while they're on Hajj for crime.
Yes.
But okay, I don't want to change the subject.
Well, that's actually a big deal. You can go online and there are support groups for women who have been sexually molested and assaulted. I mean, you got a bunch of men running around just wearing a bed sheet, no underwear, rubbing up against women. I mean, yeah, there's going to be a problem. I'm just saying. But Muhammad didn't think of that. So maybe he did. Sorry, go ahead.
This is a great idea right there. Toga party. Okay, let's get back to this. Now, this next one, I guess I didn't do the thing right. Okay, number 7. We believe that this time in history, for the separation of the so-called Negroes and so-called whites, we believe the black man should be freed in name as well as in fact. By this, we mean that he should be freed by the names imposed upon him by his former slave masters. Names which identified him as being the slave master's slave. We believe that if we are free indeed, we should go in our own people's names, the black people of the earth. So this is where you would have people who convert to Islam. They changed their name. Malcolm X, what was his first name? It doesn't matter. But here you have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He was Lew Alcindor, Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay.
Cassius Clay was a great abolitionist.
Yeah, David Wood made a video about that.
Yes,
talking about, here you have a guy that takes had a name of somebody who was against it was an ardent abolitionist, somebody that wanted to destroy the institution of slavery, and you changed your name to two people who held slaves, Muhammad and Ali both. So it makes no sense. But this is what they do.
Was a racist as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where they changed their name. So anybody that goes into the Nation of Islam, they'll take, if your last name is Smith or Sutcliffe, you can bet your bottom dollar that your name is not going to be Smith or Sutcliffe coming out of it. It's going to be, well, whoever.
Abdul.
Well, there was a guy that Malik Shabazz, not Malik Shabazz. This guy is a spokesman for NOI. He was on the news quite a bit a couple years ago. I can't remember, but he just. Well, here you have Ibrahim Hooper from CARE.
CARE
Changes his name. His name was Doug. Well, now his name's Ibrahim. What's the Mujahideen Islam? It was Kenny Bomer. That's people that call him Mujahid. It's Soldier of Allah, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, let's go to number 8. Okay, we believe in justice for all. Whether in God or not, we believe as others that we are due equal justice as human beings. Now, I like this one. We believe in equality. I like that. As a nation of equals, I like that. We do not believe that we are equal with our slave masters in the status of freed slaves. I do not like that. We recognize and respect American citizens and independent peoples, and we respect their laws which govern this nation. I doubt that, but this is the part I want to focus on right here. We do not believe that we are equal with our slave masters in the status of freed states. Now, this to me reeks of this, what do they call it? A plantation mentality, where you have this mentality that you think it's still 1860 or 1859, where this is still going on in the United States, or you think it's 1940, where you have Plessy versus Ferguson is still in effect in the United States. This is the state of mind that, I mean, look at this. This is a state of mind that not only now this is a state. Let me say this. This is the state of mind that white people have to get away from, that they think that they are racially superior to black people. And I honestly, based on my own personal feelings, my own personal experiences, and those interactions that I've had with people all around me and my closest family, closest friends, people in the church, that white people have gotten away from this idea that they're racially superior. And they don't hold these prejudices. Not like they did in the 60s, not like they did in the 50s, not like they did in the 40s. It's 2022. But look what he said here. He says, we do not believe that we are equal with our slave masters in the status of freed slaves. So here's the bottom line is that you're not a freed slave.
Yeah,
you're an American citizen.
I think there's another statement there also, which, if you look at that, can you put that slide back up again?
Yeah.
You look at that part again. They say they want equal justice. We believe as others that we are due equal justice. We believe in equality as a nation of equals. But what you have to understand is when they make that statement, we do not believe that we are equal with our slave masters. This is a statement of superiority, not a statement of inferiority. They believe that in the Nation of Islam belief, they believe the black race is superior. And they don't look at this as a statement of inferiority. They believe it's a statement of superiority of the black race.
No, because the quote I'm quoting from there, again, we must remember that if the white race had been made another color, green or blue, they still would have been inclined to evil, because their nature is evil and they were made in that nature and cannot help themselves.
Yes.
Therefore, Allah is here today making the manifest to the entire world, not only to the Negroes here in America, but to the entire world of black, brown, yellow, and red red or races as they're called. Everyone is coming to the knowledge of God as of who they are. So yeah, so they basically say all white people are evil. So
yes. Well, this is why you could. I mean, this is. I think NOI was highly in on the creation of the CRT curriculum.
Yeah.
I'm thankful you probably never saw that in England.
No.
Well, it makes sense. Is where you'd spend almost your entire energies focusing on the pigmentation, amount of pigmentation or melanin that you have in your skin. Oh, I remember with this conversation.
Yeah.
That I was told that we don't have any melanin in our skin, and that the only thing you can see is the redness in our face.
That was a black Hebrew Israelite guy who said
right. That was Dula. Was that Dula?
Yes.
Was it Dula? Okay, because we had a couple of them on, and that was you don't have any melanin in your skin. Well, my melanin's working pretty hard after.
Well, take a look at his face; it's there.
after yesterday. Andrew says, did we miss number 6? I don't think we missed number 6.
No, we didn't.
We believe in the judgment. We believe in the first. Maybe we did miss that. I'm sorry. Yeah. We take God as revealed in the mirror. Okay. All right. Number 8. We believe in justice for all, whether in God or not. Oh, wait. No, we've already done this
Just
one.
did that one. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. Number 9. We believe that the offer of integration is hypocritical and is made by those who are trying to deceive the black peoples into believing that their 400-year-old open enemies of freedom, justice, and equalities are all of a sudden their friends.
Wait a minute. So okay, they said they're following Allah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're trying to deceive, are we trying to be like Allah?
That's pretty good. Yeah. The great deceiver, sure. But look at this. I mean, come on. This is that their 400-year-old open enemies of freedom, justice, and equality are all of a sudden their friends.
Well, wait a minute. Wasn't their original mission? One of the things they wanted was equality in education, and here they're saying they don't want it. Isn't that we're at that problem of law of non-contradiction?
I don't know. I just find the hypocrisy in their charge of hypocrisy.
I don't think they know what they want. They just have hatred. They don't. There's no solution when you hold hatred. There's just hate.
I'm agreeing with that more and more as I look at this and we talk about it and analyze some of this. Furthermore, we believe that such deception is intended to prevent black people from realizing that the time in history has arrived for the separation of the whites of this nation. Now, this again, I don't know how you get there based on history, number one. How you can continue to insist on a separation based on religious premises. I honestly, I don't, because it says, let me put this back up here. He says that the white people want to be your friends, but yet they're going to deny the opportunity for white people to be their friends, and that we need to be separated from them. To me, that is one of the most racist things that I think are the most bigoted thing. I don't know if racist, but it was most bigoted things that you could say.
Do you think it's just a form of tribalism? Because it's just a form of tribalism that's just from their past previously. It has nothing to do with the slavery stuff.
In this country,
I'd have to think about that one. That doesn't sound right.
Okay, so in this country, Dominic, you can't use that word tribalism without getting
yourself
on. So,
I didn't think about that, but
yeah, you really can't use that term here. Now, if we were in the Middle East, we talk about tribalism and something else. But
we can talk about clanism. And I'm not talking about the Ku Klux Klan, but you can talk about
the clans. But you can't use the word tribe.
I was more in the African context.
Yeah, so I understand that. I'm just saying they wouldn't. It's not. They Americans. That would be an issue. But I don't see it at all as tribalism, and because
I see it as race-based ideology is all it is.
It's an ideology that's made available in particular. Here's where the only closest thing I can say to the concept of tribalism with NOI, I would say its main outreach is in prisons to prisoners and their families.
Yeah.
And that's where I would say they come from all different SES. People who are in prison and they may have had money and may not have had money. So their background, their ethnicity, outside of being black, I wouldn't call it a concept of tribalism.
Because what I was meaning was that by the concept of the fact that they simply hated the slavery from the past, and it's always in their memory, but they've never actually forgiven and forgotten their slave masters in the past.
Well, this is living in victim.
So they're just living with the guilt from that kind of stuff without actually moving forward.
Yes.
So it's almost like a remnants of the past. But the thing is, what they're trying to do is trying to kind of basically tack on because Christianity was kind of prevalent during those slave master years. They're thinking, okay, Islam is better, but not in fact knowing that Islam has a terrible history of slavery in itself.
Which is humorous again that Elijah Muhammad picked it. I mean, and I think there's great humor in the fact that Elijah Muhammad thought, I think my belief is that Elijah Muhammad picked this was total ignorance of what Islam represented.
Yes.
He picked a faith structure that believes in slavery even to this day and is okay with, to the point where they talk about their great person they call a prophet having sold two black slaves to buy one white guy.
I know. But they also call Muhammad white as well. So essentially that would like the original Muhammad white. So that would completely destroy their notion of Islam, or the education of Islam as well. So it's like,
well, here's the thing, dude. When you're talking about Noah and you're comparing it to Islam, okay, so Noah is the true Islam in my personal belief. As a matter of fact, if I was to take my shahada, it would be under the Nation of Islam, because I do identify as African American. But no, but you're talking two different things, dude. Okay, because seriously, they still there's different offshoots. The one run by Farrakhan now, he they're like Mormons. Mormons try to give, or not Mormons. What do they know? They now demand they call themselves the Latter-day Saints, or now they're demanding just to be called Christians. I think the Christian Church or something like that.
They play the word Christians, but the Latter-day Saints.
Well, that's the thing. They're trying to rebrand themselves. Okay, But okay, just like the Mormons cannot get away from Adam Smith. Okay, not Adam Smith. Oh God,
Joe Smith.
Joseph Smith, and Brigham Young, which is. Dear God, what a name. This dude had all kinds of child brides himself. Brigham Young. Yeah, Brigham real young. Anyway, of Brigham Young. But they're trying, and the Pearl, the Great Price, and all this nonsense that they have. They're trying to get away from it. And they honestly can't, because it is foundation to their teaching. But there are a lot of Mormons out there who do not understand that this is their doctrine. Now, they might not teach it anymore. Okay, in their what they don't call it churches, right? They call it stakes or something like that, or but either way, in their meeting halls, whatever, they don't teach it anymore. But at the same time, to deny it, okay, would brand you a heretic, and you would get marked, and you would get cast out from the congregation. The same way here with this noise, a lot of these people, and to be honest with you, living in Chicago, which is the heart of this stuff. There is a lot of good to what this noise stuff does. They do get black men, okay, on the straight and narrow path. They really do, okay? But their souls are lost and condemned to hell. But no, they do promote hard work, self-sufficiency. They're not on welfare. You know what I mean? They're not on a welfare roll. They don't go by that. They promote marriage, okay, and being a father to your children. They really do. All that stuff is good stuff, okay? But again, without Christ, it is for nothing. Okay, and that's one of the things. But another thing is, they are so far off the beaten path when it comes to Islam. I mean, seriously, space aliens, mad scientists, convinced white race. So, I mean, seriously, this stuff, when I first read of Malcolm X's biography, I'm like, no way. I'm looking at the book. Is this science fiction? What is this crap? You know what I mean? It is just really, really bizarre. But again, although they don't teach it, they still can't deny it because that's what makes them them. Okay, and that's the money generator. But anyway, enough of my rant. Anyway,
my big problem with NOI is this. This comes from Sahih Bukhari 63, narrated Anas bin Malik. While we were sitting with the Prophet in the mosque, a man came riding on a camel. He made his camel kneel down the mosque, tied its foreleg, and then said, "Who amongst you is Muhammad?" At that time, the Prophet was sitting amongst us, his companions, leaning on his arm. We replied, "This white man." That's Sahih Bukhari 63. Sahih Sunan al-Nasari 1323. It was narrated that Abdullah said this messenger of Allah used to say that salam to his right so that the whiteness of his cheek could be seen, and to the left so the whiteness of his cheek could be seen. I can go on and say, so what was the purpose in picking Islam? Like I said, I don't think Elijah Muhammad had a clue.
I know, because I've got a quote from Elijah Muhammad on this book that he's going to quote it, and I've looked up the actual quote from the actual Quran, and he's got it completely wrong. It's like it looks like he hasn't even read the Quran. He's just, or he may have just read the Quran.
I think he was completely unfamiliar with the Hadith literature. And it sounded to me when we were talking to which was Ambassador Valor, Prince Muhammad, whatever he was going by, that he was completely ignorant of a lot of what the Hadith literature have to say also, or they would deny it. And the way that he treated it was, well, it sounds to me like somebody just said something and then wrote it down. I think was something on the lines of what he said and how he was referring to it last week. So yeah, so to say that he was ignorant of what the Hadith literature said, yeah, and that they're not much interested in making any practical applications of it today. And the reason why is they have the yammerings and yippings of Elijah Muhammad.
Yeah,
because he wrote extensive. As a matter of fact, one of the things that he wrote about was how much money he was making from what he wrote about. He was selling all these papers to the Muslim community, and they were raking all kinds of money in for whatever it was. I remember specifically reading that. I think that was one of Malcolm X's complaints.
Yes.
That they were more focused on making that money off of these things instead of getting the word out to the community as a whole.
Well, one of Malcolm X's big complaints, I think this is one of the things that really made me like Malcolm X, was this. After his Hajj, it's not only he had to revisit his concept of racism. I think he suddenly had a revelation that the hatred within the Nation of Islam would never provide a solution. And he changed from a person who wanted to seek revenge. He wanted a violent response to a person who had to see there had to be some kind of peaceful concept. And this is where, again, he went on this Hajj not knowing anything. From my understanding of this, he went on this Hajj really not knowing anything about the Quran, and yet he followed Elijah Muhammad. We have all these Muslims that claim they follow Muhammad, yet they don't know their own scriptures. And this is what we continually see when they dare to come on here. And how is it that we, the non-Muslims, know their word more than they do?
Makes you think. All right, let's get. We got 3 more to go, I think, here. There we go. All right, so let's go to number 10. If white people are truthful. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Still part of 9. Is if white people are truthful about their profess friendships towards the so-called Negro, they can prove it by dividing up America with their slaves. I do not
and
have any slavery
this
in
is
my
off the
ancestry.
current. You got this off the current sheet, right? The current.
This is the current sheet. This is on their website today. We do not believe that America will be able to furnish enough jobs for her millions of unemployed, in addition to jobs for the 20 million Black people as well.
So they
here
have
again,
attempted to update it with at least the statistics, but they haven't really evaluated the statement. That's quite a statement.
But there's only, because I was looking at the current amount of people of the Nation of Islam. It says that there's an estimated 10,000 to 50,000 members in the Nation of Islam today, which is nothing.
How many did you say?
10,000 to 50,000.
I thought it was around 250. I'm willing to be wrong. I thought it was.
I think 250 would be closer to accurate.
Okay.
Okay, fact check me, Dominic. Fact check me on that, because I want to know how many people belong to this organization.
Yeah,
I really want to know.
So not stated so far is there is a subgroup within NOI called 3%ers. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Anybody heard of them?
No.
Okay, so they go even farther out than NOI. 3%ers will consider themselves gods and goddesses. And wait till you counter that.
That kind of makes sense, because if
they're considered, say that again. They consider themselves gods and goddesses.
Yes. So they're in their brain in many ways, as defunct as that faith structure is, they are more like Elijah Muhammad than any NOI follower, because Elijah Muhammad started out saying, "I'm a god."
I thought, well, we're getting to that belief. Okay, so let's get to number 10. Let's get to number 10. All right, so we believe that we declare ourselves to be righteous Muslims, should not participate in wars which take the lives of humans. We do not believe that this nation should force us to take part in such wars, for we have nothing to gain from it unless America agrees to give us the necessary territory wherein we may have something to fight for. Here again, you are asking for land to be given to you before you would go out and protect the land that you live in. Okay,
it's like self-contradictory. Like, the stuff we should fight for is like so we should not be able to participate in wars unless it's the wars that we want to fight for. It almost contradicts itself.
Well, I think that may have been drafted up during the draft for the Vietnam War.
I'm sorry, it was called the 5%ers. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That makes better sense, because I think I've heard of that group before. When you said 3%ers, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it was 5%ers. It's been a while. I had students every day were a part of 5%ers, and the vanity. Anybody that would call themselves a god, you sit there kind of they're teenagers.
They think.
Like, where'd you get?
Okay, so they should not participate in wars. Okay, and if this is drafted, I mean, this is Muhammad Ali refused to go into the military. Wasn't he drafted?
Yes, he was drafted.
Yeah, let me just say something on that respect. I actually respect Muhammad Ali for doing what he did, because he gave up everything, and he wasn't a coward. He wasn't somebody, I'm going to go and roll in what do you call it, in college, university, and get a PhD in nonsense. I'm not going to flee to Canada. I'm going to tell you, no, this war is wrong, it's immoral, and I'm not going to do it. Okay? And he went to jail for it. He stayed in jail, and they said, listen, if you just go in as a conscientious objector, you could be a chaplain, you could be whatever. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. Why are you saying? How
long was he in jail?
He was in there for a couple of years. He was in there for a couple of years. And they took away his titles. They banned him from fighting in the U.S. Okay, he had to fight to get all that back. But no, he stood up for what he believed. You know what I mean? He just didn't go and say, I'm going to go to Canada, or I'm going to stay in college forever. And that's the problem.
Like past presidents did. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean? He stood up. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. I respect.
He's not like a current president that got deferments due to his relatives.
Right, exactly. He stood up, so you got to respect that. I'm just saying. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well done, Red.
Eric's like, yeah, he's a coward in the code. Eric's like, no, I'm just kidding.
Well, somebody that I have a lot of respect for is Elvis Presley. Because you look at this guy, he's on top of the freaking world in entertainment. And he gets drafted. Yep. And what does he do? He goes, all right, here I come. And I'm going to be there for it. And so he goes to the army.
My dad actually met him in Germany when he was coming back. And he's like, he had a cush job.
He probably did. I mean, you're not going to dog out if you're a drill sergeant or something. Give it 20. Beat your fit. You're not going to do that. Say, hey, everybody's got to do 20 push-ups. Get down and do 20 push-ups. I don't know. I would like to. I like to been a fly on the wall. Anyway, all right. Let's get to number. Let's see.
10.
What number are we on? Number 11. All right. Let's go to number 11. Wait, I went the wrong way.
We're on 10, I think, are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We just finished up 10. It was America gives. They're not going to go to war unless they give the territory.
Okay.
We believe our women should be respected and protected as the women of other nationalities are respected and protected.
Do they know anything about Islam again?
Well, I was just going to go there. We did a show a couple weeks ago that dealt specifically with the treatment of women in Islam. My mouse, I don't know. I got a new one and it's still not. Maybe. My goodness.
I find it humorous because to say that they want to treat their women this way, and then to have the word Islam as part of the name of their organization. Okay, so you want to be able to beat your women.
Well, that's
and
what
then
I'm thinking. We believe our women should be respected. We should believe our women should be respected and protected as the women of other nationalities are respected and protected. You treat your women like cattle is what.
Yes.
If you read the Sahih Hadith, if you read now come on, I don't know what
they talk about them being used like farm tools
to be plowed like a tilth, to be to be beaten if they fear they're rebellious. You need two women to equal the same testimony as one man. The majority of women in hell, or the majority of people in hell, are women because of their disobedience. To say that you want, now come on, this is a complete disregard for the hadith literature and what the Quran is. It says. I mean, I could see why you would want this, and I'm down with that struggle. I agree with it 100%. But to say that it's because of your beliefs in Islam and what Muhammad taught, now come on, that's not right. And plus, Elijah Muhammad,
NOI does not believe Islam, which is funny.
What was Elijah Muhammad doing to his younger women? One of the things that brought Malcolm X to the fore is that he was impregnating all of these young girls that work for him. And you're saying that women should be respected and protected? Yeah, from Elijah Muhammad maybe, but not the rest of society. Good night.
Well, all these cults and these cult leaders, they all have this. They all seem to have this one common theme: the leader gets all the women. So
that's right. I didn't think of that. But that's right.
I really should have been a cult leader. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but no, they do. I mean, wait. So sidetrack on this one. You guys ever watch a documentary on the Branch Davidians? Okay, it was on an A&E a couple years ago. It's really good. I highly recommend it. But they're talking. The FBI is talking to this dude who is he's actually, I think he's still alive. Who was David Koresh's right-hand man. Okay, he had sex with his wife in like a year and a half because David Koresh ordered it so. And all of a sudden, his wife gets mysteriously pregnant and has a child. And they're showing a picture of the child, and the FBI is just like, dude, that kid looks nothing like you. You haven't had sex with your wife in over a year, and she becomes pregnant, and she's hanging out and having these encounters with David Koresh alone for hours and even nights. Come on, dude, put it together. But he still couldn't put it together. He still refused to believe that David Koresh was schlepping his old lady, okay, right out there in front of him and prevented him from having sex with his own wife. You know what I mean? I don't understand this concept. How can people be so freaking stupid that they just give this stuff up? And I guess that's why I was never a cult member. Anyway, because I'm not stupid. That's why I'm not a Muslim either. But cult members. Anyway.
Well, this is one of the things that I always say, that if you need somebody to tell you what your book says, and you can't read it and understand it for yourself, and then somebody needs to tell you what it says, you're probably in a cult. And this is what David Koresh did. He taught people, different types of philosophy and teachings from the Bible that simply were not there. You said, "Oh no, it says it right." It's just like when you get who's that Filipino dancing clown? What's that guy's name? That oh my gosh, you're gonna make me look it up on Skype. Who is this guy? Aladdin. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, Darcy. Yeah,
the Filipino.
Aladdin. Okay, Aladdin is somebody that. Okay. Did he respond to that? No, he did not. Then when you look at somebody like Aladdin, he goes, well, he's going to try to tell me what the Bible really says. The Bible doesn't really teach that Jesus was crucified. Look at John 3:15, for Pete's sake. It was just the image of the snake being held up in the desert. And just as the image of the snake, so it was Jesus's image. Forgetting all the rest of what the New Testament teaches about Jesus physically hanging on a cross. This is the type of deception that they have to go through in order to get you to believe something. And this is what cult leaders look like. And this is why I say, yes, Islam in the Western society is more like a cult, because they try to teach you and say, hey, look, the Quran really does not teach you that you can hit your wife. It teaches you that you can touch her lightly, or you can beat her lightly, if there's ever such a thing. So that what they try to do is they try to deceive you into thinking that it really doesn't say that, or it really doesn't mean what it says. You have to know it in the original Arabic, after all. I should get tired of listening to that crap. All right, let's.
I just found a funny quote from one of their books. It says the Supremism. It says when it talks about the Nation of Islam, it says, "We, the tribe of Shabazz, says Allah were the first to discover the best part of the planet Earth to live on, which is the river Nile of Egypt and the present seat of the holy city Mecca, Arabia." Because what we now know about Mecca is that it wasn't. It was first built was it Ottomans?
Mecca.
So it's the Ottoman Empire that actually
the earliest evidence that we have. The earliest evidence that we have for Mecca is a 12th century relic from an Ottoman fort.
Yeah. So it's like really late. So when they're going to say, okay, that they're from the tribe of Shabazz, which are on the present seat of the holy city of Mecca, which is like so the city of Mecca dates from like the 12th century. It's just
you do have mentions of Mecca in the beginning in the 8th and 9th century, I believe, but there's nothing in the 7th century or earlier. I do know that there's nothing out there. The Makaloba, they say, oh, that's the same thing. No, it's not. Look where Ptolemy puts it. It's nowhere near it. But okay, this last one, I think this is the last one. This is the last one. Well, if it's not, we still have plenty of time in the show to get to the last one. Okay, number 12. We believe that Allah appeared in the person of Master Wali Fard Muhammad in July of 1930, the long-awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims. We believe further, lastly, that Allah is the God, and besides him there is no God, and he will bring about a universal government of peace wherein we all can live in peace together. Okay, so let's slice and dice this one really quick. Okay, so you have Wali Fard, who comes in the image of, let's see, we believe that Allah appeared in the person. So this is Allah in the person of Wali Fard. Now remember, Wali Fard is the one that supposedly taught Elijah Muhammad. The problem with Wali Fard is that we have pictures of him from a mugshot. Believe it or not, there's a mugshot of him. So here you have Wally Fard, Allah in let's see, Jesus was a cursed Satan and his mother.
Oh, wait a minute.
What do we have here?
Have a problem with pictures?
Who is this guy? Achiever. Jesus was a cursed Satan and his mother. Oh, well, that's nice to hear. Okay.
Well, small-minded individuals.
It appears that's where his mind is in the gutter. Okay. What is this? Nation of Islam. Okay, that was just that. Okay, so let's get back to, we believe further and lastly that Allah. Okay, so here you have Muhammad, Wally Fard, is God incarnate and the Messiah and the Mahdi of the Muslims. Now that sounds to me that the guy thinks just a little bit too much of himself.
I think he doesn't understand Allah has no partners.
Well, again, this is a cult. If you believe that this guy was Allah, this is why I asked. This is where I got it from. Prince Muhammad. What's this guy's name? It doesn't matter. Something Ballard. This is why I asked him. I said, "Do you believe that he is God incarnate?" And he goes, "Oh, he's a special." And he just goes on this long list, this long diatribe of how great of a guy he was. But when you ask him, "Do you believe that this is God incarnate?" he wouldn't answer the question. "Do you believe he was the Messiah?" He wouldn't answer the question. What do you mean by Messiah? What do you mean by Mahdi? So he was being very evasive. He was being very evasive about this. Okay, the Achiever says, "I'm a Jew." Okay, that's nice. So again, here we have this guy thinking that he is the Messiah, which is shirk. Hello, God cannot enter his creation to most Muslims. Secondly, but to say that he is the Messiah is wrong, because the Quran says that Jesus is the Messiah, and that if Allah would just come, if he would just come, we could have universal peace. But until he comes, according to the Nation of Islam, we're not going to have any peace. So again, when we look at what this cult-like structure, whoops, what did I do here? Sorry.
Oh, how you did that one.
I don't know which button did I, what button was that one? Was that one? No, was it that one? That's the one I must have hit. Sorry. Okay. When we look at this cult-like structure, I mean, this is what you get. There was another part that I wanted to go on here. Here it is. It says, what else do they believe? This is kind of neat. It says that they believe that white people were created through a scientific experiment by a guy by the name Jacob.
Oh, blaming the Jews again.
Yeah. Farrakhan explained.
Michael Jackson did.
What's that?
Isn't that what Michael Jackson tried to do with his own skin?
I don't know.
Science experiment, basically.
I'm not sure if he tried to or not, but I do remember him being much darker. There is a pigmentation. I don't know if the right word is disease or, but amongst black people where their skin gets lighter, he could have had that. But yes.
No, he did not have that. He bleached his skin.
That's the other thing. I'm trying to not say that because.
How do you bleach your skin? How do you do that?
I don't even want to get into that.
Process where no, they don't. Okay, so no, you don't you can't take a bath and bleach. No, there are these chemicals, okay, that they inject into you, and it takes the melanin out. Just like the dude, remember the book Black Like Me that we all had to read because you guys are my age, so you probably had to read it. Black Like Me. That reporter, who in the 60s, he actually cosmetically altered himself to look black, and they injected him with these chemicals, which he later died of cancer because of it. Go figure. Anyway, it is a common procedure, and unfortunately, a lot of black people. Actually, it's very popular in Pakistan and India. Okay, where women they bleach their skin to make themselves look lighter, because unfortunately it is. I don't understand the concept.
In India, the lighter your skin, the
Yeah.
higher your.
Oh, in the United States, we pay people to go into tanning beds to make their skin darker.
And make it look like a piece of leather,
The world
too.
is upside down for some reason. I don't know.
People are uncomfortable in their own skin because they look at these fashion magazines and they look. I don't get it. I mean, it's like, dude, you are who you are. You know, I mean, I don't care. Yeah, true. I identify as 6'5" sometimes. That doesn't mean I'm a giant. You know what I mean? It just means I'm a short.
But as long as you think you are, we all will believe you.
No, I really do. I don't understand this. People say, well, you're only 5'7". I'm like, yeah, but I feel 6 foot tall.
That's
and
all
I
that matters.
People, you know what I mean? Like taller than me. I really don't. Except for one time, I was in an elevator and I was surrounded by giants. They must have been 6'10", all of them. I think it was the Chicago Bulls. But anyway, no, I was in this elevator. I'm looking up at them. I'm like, dude, I'm in the land of giants. I'm a short little dwarf. And it kind of shocked me. But anyway, but that's okay. I can still hit him at the knees, man. Yeah.
Okay, I want to show you a couple things. I don't know who this guy is.
He doesn't know anything about Jesus if he's saying the Jews killed Jesus.
I'm thinking he's just coming to provoke people.
Okay, I don't think he's a Jew. I just think he's a
idiot.
He's
okay, look at here. And then he goes, shout your mouth, test me. Okay.
So now we know he doesn't know English very well.
Yeah, he meant to say shut your. Okay, now there's a comma or apostrophe after you, mouth, and then there would be a period after mouth. Capital test me, test. Oh, there you got it right. Look at there, right there. You got that right. Your mother, you got it right. Okay, you Satan. Satan would be capitalized, but well, that's okay. Yep.
Doesn't know English.
Yeah.
So my bet is he's probably someplace, maybe Libya, or
he's probably a kid, is what I'm guessing. He's probably some fourth grader.
Another jihad.
I think you're being kind. We'll go a little bit lower.
Okay, sorry. I mean, he knows to put apostrophe after the U, so maybe he is a little bit, because some people would just put YOUR when trying to contract UR, but. Anyway, okay, so I'm getting back to this. White people are the result of a experiment, some type of biblical experiment by Yakub, and the white race is the race of the devils. There we go. That's what I was looking for. We're a bunch of devils. Now, this is according to Louis Farrakhan. Let's see, frequently promoting anti-Jewish conspiracies. Okay, here's some of their own words. Here's what they say. These same Jews that are attacking the minister are the blood relatives of the slave ship owners. Okay. Also pushing the federal government are the wicked members of the Jewish community who have oppressed every good deed and all of the good works of a good man. That's from the final. The final call is that newspaper that they published, by the way, that I bought there. Okay. These false Jews promote, this is Louis Farrakhan here, these false Jews promote the filth of Hollywood that is seeding the American people and the people of the world and bringing you down in moral strength. It's the wicked Jews, the false Jews. They are promoting lesbianism, homosexuality. It's the wicked Jews, false Jews, that make it a crime for you to preach the word of God. They even call you homophobic. Let's see, Khalid Muhammad says, who are the slumlords in the black community, the so-called Jews? Who is it sucking our blood in the black community? A white imposter Arab and white imposter Jew. Jews have been conclusively linked to the greatest criminal endeavor ever undertaken against an entire race of people, the Black African Holocaust. The effects of this unspeakable tragedy are still being felt among the peoples of the world at this very hour. Louis Farrakhan again. The Jews don't like Farrakhan, so they call me Hitler. Well, that's a good name. Hitler was a very great man. Oh my gosh. Elijah Muhammad. Integration is against the desire and will of God who wants it. This is Elijah Muhammad. This is their prophet now. the will of God, who wants and must do that which is written. He will come and restore the earth to its rightful owner, the black man.
Did they just say that God must do things because it's written down, so God gets put in a box and must do things?
Wow. They got his Elijah Muhammad, so but he's dead now.
Yes.
So I don't know if they kind of. They must have a problem with.
Well, you know, the thing that got me about what you're reading, Eric, is there constant reference to fake and false Jews. So Jews in general are okay, but the fake ones, I mean, because they kept making reference to fake Jews. So if you're really Jewish, are they okay with you? I mean, that's quite a statement when they keep saying fake. I'm kind of curious if he was actually asked a question. I mean, so if we have someone who's actually Jewish, are you hating him?
Doggone it. Okay, I was just looking at the number of people in the Nation of Islam. And the reason why I was doing that is because we recently have been looking at some attacks committed by the Nation of Islam here in a country. You go with this guy that was attacked the Capitol last year. Remember, he tried to ram, or he did ram one of those gates that was, and then he ended up killing one of the.
He killed a Washington D.C. officer, but you never hear about that because that doesn't fit the narrative. So.
The black man against the white man.
Okay, now what about this guy right here? That subway shooter from last month, just last month.
Yeah, they hid that. That's right.
I haven't heard about him.
Yeah, don't hear about him no more, do you? What about this guy right here? The Beltway sniper
I remember
guy.
that.
You remember him?
I don't think there's a person in their 30s who doesn't remember this.
Wait, is that the kid or the old man that controlled him? Because that kid got a raw deal.
I believe that's the kid.
Oh, really? No, that kid did get a raw deal, dude. I'm sorry.
Actually, I don't remember. I mean, they were both. I think, well, if you look at it, they both were NOI.
Oh, well, they both. No, don't get me wrong. They both were shooters and killers, and the kid did most of the shooting. But he was 16 years old, and he was under control of his stepdad or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, he got a raw deal, but he got his own deal because he kept his mouth shut, which is stupid. But no, he did get a raw deal on that one. They should not have prosecuted him for that shit. They should have thrown the book at the old man who took him on this little adventure of killing people.
Okay, these guys comprise 50,000. Okay, let me do the math here. I'm going to do the math. Yes, I am. So 50,000, 1, 2, 3, divided by 330. Let's see, 33 million equals. They compose 0.00015% of the American population. But yet, when we see attacks on, and this is just not the ones that don't even get publicized, for Pete's sake. They're out there committing these types of crimes against the citizens of this country. That, to me, is unconscionable. And then Malcolm X himself, he was assassinated by the Nation of Islam themselves. I don't know. Did they admit that? Did they ever admit that? I don't know if they admitted that or not.
It's a bold statement that is out there. NOI will. It's in his. I believe it's in his biography. You can read it in his biography, and I think it's the history of Elijah Muhammad, and I mean, there's a lot of murders that take place during that time period. Many of them are NOI. Around the leadership of that group. Yeah.
Well, after Elijah Muhammad died, his son took over the group and renamed it something. I can't remember what he renamed it, but he renames it something. And then he wanted to basically mainline it or streamline it with mainstream Sunni Shia Islam. And people started rebelling, rising up, and then this is where Louis Farrakhan was able to come to power and throw him out. I don't know where he is today, what Elijah Muhammad's son is today, but I know this Louis Farrakhan is an anti-Semitic pig, is what he is. And that he preaches is just absolutely horrendous.
In the 90s, Farrakhan made a statement that the only thing that they could use, that Jews were good for, were organ transplants. And I remember that well enough because at the time that I ended up using that in a quote. I was working in a school where a school newspaper had allowed a teacher to make a statement, in a school newspaper about Elijah Muhammad being a good guy. And I was not a teacher. I was a paraprofessional, basically a teacher aide. And I said, "Can I respond to that?" And the school newspaper editor said, "Please do." And I started to cite all these nice racist statements against white people, against Jews and stuff. And you really consider this guy an ideal person for students to follow?
Right.
Yeah, and just left it like that.
Don't they believe in some type of spaceship? Because I remember Rush Limbaugh used to refer to him as Calypso Louis or something along those lines.
Oh, I haven't heard
he
that
believes
one for a
in
while.
something about L. Ron Hubbard's diagenics or whatever that was.
You'd have to go back and look, but I haven't heard that statement in quite a while, so I haven't.
Yeah, that's funny.
Dianetics.
There you go.
Yeah. Wow, that's been a while. Spaceship Louis, I wouldn't put it past him.
Well, he believes that
again,
type of
they don't know
spaceship is going to
anything
come
about Islam, yet they have in their title of their faith structure, they call it Nation of Islam, but they do nothing about Islam. They have they might even quote a passage here and there, but they don't want anybody to actually know, which is sad. Christians, we encourage everybody to read the Bible. Read it on your own. Please, please, please read it. Okay. I'm still waiting for Muslims to encourage, or Nation of Islam to encourage people to read the Quran. Once, please get them to read it once, because they'll leave.
Right. Here is, hold on, let me bring this up here. Man, I got to get away from this sneezing fit. Okay.
Oh, what's this picture from? Matt? Oh, that is a mug shot.
There we go. Sorry. All right.
In this picture.
Yeah, this is a mug shot. He's in jail, for Pete's sake. This isn't God incarnate, for Pete's sake. To believe this garbage is just, I don't know. I mean, look at this guy. He's whiter than I am, for Pete's sake. Here, what's this? Wallace Fard. And this is Elijah Muhammad and Martin Luther King. There's Calypso Louis. What is this here? Nation of Islam's authored Hearst. I'd have to look at that. And here's the problem with all of this. I really, it's just kind of like the Black Hebrew Israelites. I could really care less what they believe, but it was the racial component where they're imposing their racist views in trying to legitimize them using religion. And this is what the Nation of Islam is doing also. This is what prompted me to bring this guy onto the shows, because with the Nation of Islam imposes their racist views to present it in a religious context to legitimize it. And to me, that is like the sickest thing that you could possibly do. And then to teach that to your children, again, is unconscionable. I would consider it child abuse to teach people that type of crap. trying to see what else here. The rise and fall of Elijah Muhammad. Carmichael.
Crazy person.
Could you guys take a look and see where if this guy was actually under arrest or was arrested at some point in time? And because when I, because you can only do so much research prior to a show. You can only look so many things up. And I did a show, I don't know, 2-3 years ago on BTR when I first started out.
He was
talking about this guy.
Failing to draft for the Vietnam War. It says something like that.
He wouldn't have been a Vietnam era guy though. This guy was
1920. World War II. It was arrested for failure to register for the draft during World War II after he was released on bail.
Okay, that makes sense.
Charged with 8 counts of sedition for instructing his followers not to register for the draft or serve in the armed forces. Found guilty, Elijah Muhammad served 4 years from 1962 to 1946. As the federal correctional institution in Milan, Michigan, during that time, his wife, Clara, and trusted aides ran the organization. Muhammad transmitted his messages and directives to his followers in letters.
Okay, so Elijah Muhammad was also known as Ulan Bogans, Elijah Poole.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay. He had a business address of Shabazz Grocery and Restaurant, and that's in Chicago, Illinois. I'm going to put a link in the chat room where you can find the FBI file on this man.
Elijah Poole?
Well, no, it's Elijah Muhammad. It's the FBI file that's on him. That's
right. Elijah Muhammad is Elijah Poole. That he just changed his name.
Yes. Yeah. And it's kind of, you sit there. I'll just throw this in the chat room while I'm thinking of it. I didn't expect to. I just typed in crimes, and this link should be interesting for most of you. At least I haven't even got into his crimes, but I'm up to page 11, and you sit there kind of like, well, I mean, and these are FBI files on Elijah Muhammad, and it's interesting to say the least.
Okay, your link, Rad. What is this link that you put in there?
Oh, well, this has something to do with the show. Are we winding up the show? Because I was just going to discuss this later. At the end of the show. I just want to throw this out there. Okay. You guys, when you're out, okay, be on the lookout for this specific brand, Similac Neosure. I got a person with a newborn primo baby, a premature born baby. Okay, in my locals community that is desperately searching for this stuff. They got enough to last another 2 weeks, and they are out and they are searching everywhere. I cannot find it online. Nobody can. The child can only eat, because he was born premature, can only eat this type of formula. So if you happen to just be out shopping or find it, buy it, and we will pay and reimburse you and get it out to this young family.
Wow. Okay, leave that there for a second, Red. I'm gonna take a quick pic and I'll put it up on my Facebook. At least I can.
Yeah, be on the lookout.
Yeah, I was in the store yesterday and called my daughter-in-law because we got little newborn that needs formula, and she said that they're good on formula right now. But
right now, that's the thing. Well, post your brand too, because we got to be on the lookout for this stuff. Now, don't go
Enfamil.
Yeah, so don't go hoarding it. Don't go buying stuff, But if you happen to see it, grab a can or two if you can. Okay, but this stuff is definitely needed. Dominic, I don't know, you in the UK, look for this kind of stuff as well, because evidently you guys do not have the same kind of problem we're having here in the United States. Again, we for over shipping everything. Okay, but evidently that's illegal, so we're gonna have to commit a crime. It's okay.
Well, what they're doing is they're keeping it in customs. They're holding it up in customs.
Are they?
From overseas. Yeah, that was one of the complaints. Is when they ship it in from overseas. Well, then customs is holding it up.
I used to be a drug smuggler, dude. We'll get that past cussing. No problem, dude. I got packing in coffee. We're good, dude. I'm just saying.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, pack it in coffee. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Seriously. Anyway.
Okay.
Keep an eye out for that. I'm just saying, dude. There's a serious need. All right.
Well, I clicked on the link and I'm like, well, I thought Paul was going to post a link about Wally Fard, and then
sorry.
Up and I'm like, what's this here? That's okay.
Yeah, I put it in the YouTube chat.
Because I'm reading it now, so much of it is actually redacted. It's like so much is like
that kind of blew my mind there when I started going through it. I mean, I'm curious if we were to ask today, even though this is as redacted as it is, using today's standards, would this amount be redacted? I'm just curious. I'm guessing that those are identifiers of FBI personnel. I don't have the code for the what B2 means, or the codes for the redaction. You sit there kind of, again, these are documents from a long time ago.
Because it's not easy to read. It's not like with the writing wise, it's not easy because it's all photocopied in.
Yes. It is not easy to read. It is an incredibly accurate statement.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and close it up for the day. Do any of you guys have any ideas for Tuesday's show? Maybe we could do a show on Israel over the holy days.
You know what would be fun to do? I would say to open up, to provide a way to, I don't know if you can broadcast to Clubhouse and challenge at the same time the Clubhouse to join here. Your Clubhouse chatters.
There's a way to do it because they do it on Jai's channel, I think. Let me see. I don't know if you have to pre-record it and then rebroadcast it. But I know he does.
I think you just stream. Well, yeah, you have to ask Jay on how to do that. But I think what he's doing is he's firing up the Clubhouse, and then he's just piping it, okay, to StreamYard. Well, maybe he's not even using StreamYard. Maybe he's just going straight to YouTube. I don't know. But he could also be doing the pre-recorded stuff. No, I don't think it is because he does it as a live. So, interesting. Yeah, so you have to ask.
Well, here he is. Okay, hold on. Live on Clubhouse. Hold on. Let me look here. Jay, live on Clubhouse. He's got his Clubhouse. Okay, can you hear that at all?
No, we can't hear you.
No.
Could you guys hear that?
No.
Okay. Oh, hold on.
You probably muted your YouTube.
All right, let's try this.
Hello, everyone. It's on YouTube.
I found
okay, so he must be live streaming it through YouTube directly without going through StreamYard. Well, that's not true. I don't know. We'll take a look at it. Maybe just join a Clubhouse
room. This is a priceless quote from the FBI. Elijah Muhammad was also known to him as Elijah Muck, and also known as the Prophet. So he was called Elijah Muck. That's from the FBI.
That's just weird. That whole group is just that. It's just there's something wrong with it. It's okay. So we're not going to be talking about the Nation of Islam anymore on this show. I don't think that we're going to ban it, but
Yay!
I don't want to. I just kind of feel icky after dipping your toe in that for a while.
I do want to say one more time. I love that Dominic that you said, but it doesn't work outside of America.
Yeah, no, it won't exist outside of America because the whole kind of concept just
kind of minimizes its impact. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Send on the UK, have the British deal with it.
We'll banish them to the UK to just see the food or not on them.
I have a question for Dominic.
Wait. Let's a question. I'm sorry. But how did Black Lives Matter do in the UK? Did they swindle?
It did okay, but it died out after a certain amount of time because they realized, okay, we've dealt with this issue before, and then they kind of realized. So yeah, so it lasted for a bit of time.
Oh, really? So they didn't swindle millions of dollars and all buy mansions and stuff or estates, lords and ladies.
Oh, they had a video of Candace Owens going to that lady's mansion.
Oh, that is awesome.
Lady, go ahead.
Oh, that is awesome, dude. Yeah. So Candace Owens just goes and says hi. She's 9 or 8 months pregnant. Says hi. Is there anybody here to talk to me? Because this is listed as a Black Lives Matter property. And the white security guard says, no one's here to talk to you. She said, okay, we're not going to harass you. We're going to go now. And the Black Lives Matter lady's like, sure. I woke up. It's like 10:30 in the morning. I woke up and I looked at the camera video of this. So maybe she woke about 12 noon. I don't know. And I got to keep my family safe, people. I know.
And she breaks down in these fake alligators. It's the most disgusting thing. These guys are a bunch of hustlers is what they are.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
True socialists, they only want the money for themselves.
It's amazing how their tax records are not being filed either. And nobody's doing anything. Why? Well, if you do something about that, well, I guess that you probably make that be racist too.
Well, wait, Darcy had a question for Dominic before I rudely interrupted her with my mansplaining. Sorry.
No, I was just wondering, Dominic, do you have all your pictures ready?
Yeah, I will have them ready next week, or will it be next week, or the week after that?
Yeah,
so the answer is no.
No.
We're looking forward to it, Dominic, because some of us are just dreaming about visiting.
Yeah.
Eric's going sometime soon.
Eric's running. Well, you didn't do like a live show from Israel. You didn't do like a live.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Just sitting back and enjoying what you have to say.
Yeah.
But we're not going to be able to do it next. Well, I don't know. Maybe we could do it next Sunday, Paul. And Dominic, I'll be in contact with you to.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll try to figure that one out. And again, I don't want to pressure you to hurry up and get it done.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
We got to do the show. Dominic went to Palestine, searching for Islam, and found Israel and Jesus. You know what I mean? Great title.
I think that'd be too long of a title, though. We'll figure it out. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. Everybody in chat again. Thank you for coming. God bless you. I know you can do all kinds of other things on a Sunday afternoon, but I appreciate you coming out here and spending your time with us and engaging in all these great discussions that we have here on the Crescent discussion group. We'll see you next time. God bless you.
God bless everybody.